And welcome everyone along to the Facilitators of Change e-forum. It's great to have you here for this second last session. I can't believe that we're this far through. And today we've got conversations with high-performing farmers, which is going to be great. It's based on the research that Mark Elliott from UMR has been doing. And we're also joined this morning by Rob and Karen Newman from Gisborne area, and I'll get them to introduce themselves shortly. But it's great to have you, Mark, Rob, and Karen on board. So thank you so much for joining us. Jeanette, I've got two facilitators, Jeanette and Lab, so I'm going to get them to introduce themselves once I've said properly that I'm Denise Busel, because I'm looking at my thing and going, that's right, I need to introduce myself as well. I'm Denise Busel. I'm with Red Meat Profit Partnership and Beef and Lamb New Zealand. I'm based in Christchurch. It's a little bit chilly this morning, but it's not too bad. So Jeanette, I'll get you to say hi, please.
Hi everybody, Jeanette Long from South Australia, dry South Australia at the moment, and so I've been working with Denise and Lab and the RMPP with the e-forum, so I'm very much enjoying the learning experience. It's been great. Thanks, Denise.
Awesome, thanks Jeanette. And Lab, welcome.
Yes, hi everybody. Most of you know me, but for those that don't, I've been involved with the lead facilitator course mostly with RMPP for the last 3.5 years. Just getting all of our wonderful facilitators started on the trail, and it's been so great to see what they've done with their roles. So we're going to find a bit more about that today too, I think. So looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Cool. Thanks, Lab. It's great to have Lab and Jeanette co-facilitating. Lots of work in the background as we've developed the sessions over the time, so it's been really cool. And welcome again to Mark, Rob and Karen. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. We really appreciate it. I'm going to throw Mark, can you introduce yourself first, and then I'll throw to you, Rob and Karen.
Yeah, everyone, I'm Mark Elliott. So I've been doing work with the Red Meat Profit Partnership with research since it started, 2014, I think was the first project. I'm coming to you from Auckland, but I better just say I actually originate from a little place called Wotu in the South Waikato, where I did actually share the odd sheep and lamb the odd ewe. So, but that was a long time ago. But it's much warmer up here in Auckland. It's actually a very nice place to live.
We might have to take a poll on that, Mark. But that's good to hear. And Rob and Karen, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Can I get you to say hi and tell us a little about where you are and about your farm? We really appreciate that you've been able to make the time for us this morning.
Hi. Yeah. Hi everyone, I'm Rob and Karen, and we're from a little place called Tini Roto, which is kind of inland between Gisborne and Wairoa. We're on a 700 hectare farm here, which is the home block, and then we recently, as of a couple of years ago, purchased another block just out of Wairoa, so a little 400 hectare farm down there. So yep, that keeps us busy.
And what are you running, Karen, on your property? Can you give us a...
Yep, we're mainly bulls, finishing bulls up here, and we finish around 850 a year, and then we have on the other block we're finishing around 6,000 lambs, which includes our homebred ones from here, plus we purchase others, and then down there we buy yearling and weaner bulls, which we hold down there and then bring up here and finish. So the two farms are very integrated together, which has been a huge strength over the last couple of years, but yeah, works well.
Cool. Well, thank you again. It's great to have you on board for this session. You've heard a little bit about the facilitators and our guests this morning. So now we'd like to hear where you guys are from. So I'm just launching the polling. Hopefully you can see the poll in front of you. If you can click where you're from, so we get a bit of a feel for where our participants are from. I'll give you a couple more minutes just to vote. Anyone else want to put in where they're from?
As well.
You can if you want.
Last chance. Alrighty. Oh, cool. Excellent. I'm going to finish that up and just show you, share results. Hopefully you can see the results. We've got people spread around, so a few people in the Waikato Bay of Plenty, Rob and Karen, of course, and Gisborne, then around Manawatu, Wanganui, Canterbury, Otago, and Ola. If that's you, maybe Jeanette, I'm not sure. But anyway, that's awesome. Now the other poll that we're just going to quickly do is get a feel for what experience you've got in facilitation. So can you tell us whether you've got little, none, some experience in facilitation? So you can click the poll. We'll do the same thing again. I'm aware that I can see it, so I can't say too much until I share. It's always easier. The last couple of people, if you want to vote, click it. Otherwise, I'm going to end the polling and share the results. So we've really got a range of people on the call, which is great to see, from no experience through to very experienced facilitators. So yeah, it's good. It's good to have a range of people on, and welcome along again. So Jeanette, I'm going to throw over to you.
Thanks, Denise. So my job is to remind you all to be on mute, which you're all doing a great job of. But when we send you off to the breakout rooms, you please unmute yourselves and have a chat with the people in the breakout rooms. If you could be on Slack on your another device is always easier. If you could, so Dusty's just put the link up, because when we go off to the breakout rooms, we'll use Slack to put up our burning questions and any comments and discussion we have. So if you can please log into the Slack channel. We have Tech Dusty on board this morning. So if you have any issues, you can message him in the chat. So find the chat box, you'll find that along the bottom of the screen, and he's just shared something or shared the Slack channel. So please use the chat. I think they're the main things that we need to remember. So perhaps if we share the screen, the PowerPoint, Dusty, we can have a look at what we're going to run through today. Okay, so our plan for this morning is we're going to send you off to breakout rooms shortly to have a discussion about what are your burning questions as a result of watching the video that was posted. The questions will then be popped up in Slack so that when we come back, we can explore those questions with the panel and have a discussion. And then we'll head off back into breakout rooms again to discuss how we could apply this to our sector. So that's our plan for this morning. Yeah, so I'll hand over to Lab.
Hi again, everybody. Right, we're going to go straight into a breakout group now, breakout rooms. I guess we've got enough for a couple, have we, Dusty? So hopefully you'll have a facilitator in each of your groups, if not appoint one. But we'd also like you to appoint a separate scribe, and their responsibility is to record the burning questions in Slack so that we can have a look at them. So introduce yourselves and then go around, share your burning questions, get them into Slack, and then we'll come back and we'll be working with the others to address all of those burning questions to start with.
Welcome back, everyone. It's great to have you. Alrighty, and I can see that you're slowly putting a few bits and pieces into Slack. So yeah, and Jeanette, I'm going to hand over to you.
Thank you, Denise. So yeah, keep putting those burning questions into Slack so that we can ask them of our panel. So I'm going to start with Rob and Karen and ask them, what's a couple of things that have made a real difference to your business in the last 12 months?
We've always been involved with discussion groups and yeah, obviously we try and have get as much input from kind of outside as we can, and we've kind of recently even been got another little mini discussion group going as well, and we just
probably with higher performing farmers rather than just our local discussion groups.
Yeah, we're not just doing day-to-day management stuff. We're kind of looking at more high-end stuff, and it's just, it's been just been pretty invigorating, really, and just always learning from those type of scenarios, really, and just putting yourself out there. And I mean, we're probably, how many discussion groups are we involved with? Probably 4 or 5 between us, so it can be challenging and busy, but you do pick up different things from different groups, basically. And
also probably staff over the last year. We've got a couple of really good guys that have joined us, and we're really enjoying them and what they're bringing to the business. And that's freed us up to allow us to probably work more on our business rather than just in it. So I think, those are probably 2 key things for us this past year.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. So now I'll go to Mark. So Mark, from your research, what's a couple of things that stands out for you that the high-performing farmers are doing? Have to unmute yourself.
Can you see that screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I'll just quickly take you through some of, because there's thousands of things I could talk about, but if I wanted to just try and bring out a few things, often what you find with high performing farmers, they do have a real focus of understanding what drives their performance, and they may have anywhere between around 3 to 5, maybe more key areas they've identified on their farm that really drives performance for them. For an example, farmer that I talked to down in Southland, he focused on what he called the 4 C's, which is cobalt, cash, clover, and cost. And he says, if I just focus on those 4 key drivers, I know, and just always execute around them, I know I'll do well. And so he was really big on working out his margin. For him, it was more about profit than actual production. So understanding costs were critical. The other thing that I think is really important is they just have to be alert to what is happening on their farm. And the way they do that is they have a real focus on observing everything that's happening around the farm. There was one farmer I talked to, I think it was in Canterbury, and he said he didn't, both him and his wife didn't like side-by-side vehicles or utes. They preferred to drive around the farm on a 2-wheeler motorbike. And they said when you're on a 2-wheeler motorbike, you can't help but stare at your grass all the time. And that just that close connection to your grass just means you kind of know what's going on. And as well as looking at it, they also had a big focus on making sure they actually wrote down what they were seeing. So they recorded stock, pasture, and financial performance. Now there was no flash hairy ways of doing that. Like some will just write it in diaries. Like some may use a fancy computer program or just an Excel spreadsheet. But it was just the fact that they actually did it, and the reason why it was so important to do it, because then you get to see a pattern of what's happening on your farm, and then that allows you to make an early call so you can preempt the loss of cost of stock and pasture condition, because that's the only place you make money on farmers is on your stock and your pasture. But when your stock and your pasture, that when they start to lose condition, it's almost too late. So you got to act early to make those calls to ensure that's not going to happen. And one way that helps you to act efficiently to make those calls happen is that you have quality infrastructure. Because if you're trying to make those calls but you get distracted by sheep running through holes in the fence or by a leaky trough at the back of the farm somewhere, you can't focus on where you make the money, which is stock and pasture. So basically 101, all these top farmers have at some stage quite a few years ago invested in quality infrastructure, which frees them up to focus on where they make money on their business. And just one last thing on that, because Rob brought this up, they're also well connected to other people. So I saw, and so they can test and refine ideas. So this happens both in the farm team and outside the farm team. what I saw with Karen and Rob, they're always having conversations about the farm, and they're testing each other's ideas. I think they probably offend each other every now and then from time to time, but they're having really good conversations to test those ideas. But also outside the farm, they're surrounded by a farm team, and it's more the person than the actual kind of rural professional. I think in Karen and Rob's case, I think it might have been a new bank manager you guys had met, and they tested ideas off them a lot. But as well as them, there's also a range of other people that bounced ideas around with, and as Rob said, also been involved in quite a few discussion groups, and so those discussion groups give you get you exposed to a diversity of ideas where you can test and refine your ideas and sort of help to improve what you're doing behind the farm gate. That's just a real little snippet of a lot of stuff, but anyway, I'll leave it there.
Right, thanks Mark, thanks for sharing. Yeah, the importance of having that support team around you, I don't think we can ever underestimate. So I'm going to start go through some of the questions in Slack. So we have one that I'll throw to Rob and Karen, is how do high performing farmers stay over everything on their farm? So I guess about staying on top of what's going on. Any good tips?
I think we kind of try to divide the farm into areas a little bit, and it's around trying to get the right person for the right job. I mean, we're lucky with Rob and I that, you know, we're quite diverse in our interests and what we enjoy. But I think it kind of starts a little bit as well with doing your own job description. You know, what are your areas of interest and your expertise? You're only as good as the weakest link in your business. So if there's areas that you really don't enjoy or you struggle with, then trying to keep doing it is not a good idea. So that's probably how, you know, I tend to do a lot more of the office budgeting side of it, a lot of the HR things that I actually enjoy. Rob tends to do more of the operational stuff with the guys, working out the day-to-day things. So I think through doing that and actually having those areas of responsibility, even when you get busy and I might be out on farm working, you know, I still drench lambs and help with everything else, I know in the back of my mind that actually I've got wages to do and I've got this other stuff. So you've got to, within your job, you have to make those priorities. And I know what mine are, Rob knows what his are, and the guys know what theirs are. So I think that's one way of really having a good handle across all the jobs that need doing and all the different areas on the farm. But
yeah, another little thing is, like, you know, with the block down in Wairau, there's, you know, just over 6,000 lambs down there, and we know if we left it to our stock manager guy down there, you're going to sour him very quickly, just having it, like, you'd just finish drenching them and then turn around again. So we've kind of made it a bit of a policy that at least one, if not two of us from here, go down there, help him, blow out the drenching, job done, tick, and move on. So it's just,
the team approach.
Teams everything, and just not, just looking at different policies and stuff. So we're not, so we've got a lot of the things covered off, and you're not souring anyone, and you know, whether it's working the hours and the weekends and stuff like that, it's coming at a team approach that you know, there's fairness and everything else in there.
Yep, great, thanks. Mark, is there anything you would like to add to that question around what the research that you observed? Remember to unmute yourself.
Yeah, sorry, I forgot the question now.
So the question was about how do high-performing farmers manage to stay on top of everything?
Yeah, there's one thing just touching on what I think Karen started with there. I did have that bullet point on my slide before, but I took it off because I didn't have much time. I think they really understand their style of farming, which is basically they understand what they really enjoy doing. And part of what Karen was there talking about is breaking up the task on the farm, so the person who really enjoys what they want to do get to do what they want to do. Because we all know when you enjoy what you're doing, you lift up your game and you go harder. And that's the beauty thing about farming. No matter where, you can bring your own style to farming, and that's what makes these farmers so good. They've got their own style, they love that style, and they can apply it behind the farm gate. And which is kind of what Karen was talking about, I think.
Yeah, good observation, Mark. And I think one of the things I see, we think we have to do everything as a farmer when we're better off doing what we're good at and having the team around us rather than trying to keep across everything. So there's a question here from Meg about how do we get farmers that aren't currently doing the habits of highly performing farmers to see the value of them. So we all know there's value in record keeping, but if you don't see the value in the diary, in keeping the diary and records, then I guess you don't tend to do it. So Rob and Karen, any thoughts about how do we get other farmers to see the habits and recognise how valuable they are?
Yeah, it's real tough on that one. I'm the old adage that you know, when there's money, farmers will either do something if they can gain more monetary value out of it, or vice versa. If it's hitting them in the pocket, well, then they'll change. So yeah, it's a real tough one to try and change. You know, like it's embedded attitudes and everything else. It's very tough to change. And you know, even we've had monitor farm things and stuff like that out here to try and encourage farmers along and get them involved and inputting. And yeah,
but I also think as well is that, you know, sometimes we jump at things, you know, it's all or nothing. But I think it's just about making a start. And often it's just the simple things, you know, how many farmers feed budget, you know, and it's a simple concept, you know, measuring your grass each month and matching it with, you know, what you're feeding out. But a lot of farmers don't, and they, you know, you don't often notice that your grass isn't growing that well till you're running out of it, you know, or you're suddenly like, oh geez, it's a bit short. Whereas when you're measuring it each month and you know, looking at where you think it's going to be in 2-3 weeks time, you know, pairing it up with the weather and that kind of thing, I think that's would be a huge step that we made, you know, years ago. So I think a lot of it is, don't try and do everything, don't try and reinvent the wheel. And if doing that with a notebook, writing it down and doing it not necessarily with technology, that's probably a good start. Whereas I think sometimes we think, oh right, we've got to do pasture covers, right, now we've got to get FarmX, or but then everybody's like, oh well, you know, it's a very tricky, or it can be a tricky technology to use. So you're spending so long trying to learn how to do FarmX that you're not actually doing the feed budgeting, or nothing that's worthwhile information, so then you throw it out. Whereas, you know, if you can start with just doing a simple feed budget, then as you're getting a bit more au fait with it all, then start stepping into sort of technology. But a lot of all this stuff we can do without necessarily jumping into every farming package that's out there to get the information that we want. So yeah, I think a lot of it is just start with one thing that you think might be a really useful information to have in your business, and for different people that's a different thing. But yeah, I think keep it simple and start with something.
It might be just recording your rainfall, you know, recording simple things like that, and or soil moisture levels. So yeah, simple things that all can make a big difference, help you make your decisions.
Yep. Yes, those little notebooks that farmers carry around their pockets can be very useful. Making sure we don't put them through the wash around here, I find. Mark, we've heard a bit about high-performing farmers and having teams of people around them. Are most of the high-performing farmers that you've worked with big operators with staff, or some of them, you know, the small teams?
Yeah, there's a wide range. That's why I said before about the style of farming. Some of them are quite small, and they just love to farm. But they normally have one worker. They aren't always just owner operators, but they're definitely not all big teams. I can I just make one comment on what Rob and Karen were saying there? Like they both did right, because it is a really hard thing to do. But what Karen was saying there, with a lot of farmers, you only got to, it's just small steps, and the next step is to find something that they love. The farmers, some just love grass, some just love putting weight on lambs. So to find the part they love in their business, and then put some structure around that, so they're more likely to do it because they already enjoy it. And just something simple, just measure that one thing. But then the really important thing is then to record it, but then record the impact of it. Because as Rob was saying, once they see the impact, and if you're measuring something, you will see an impact. And if that leads to a return, a farmer will keep doing it.
Okay, while we're talking about the teams, I'll just throw in a question that's from an area of passion of mine, is about how important is it to have the women and the partners involved within the groups and within the farm businesses? From the research perspective, perhaps Mark, and then we'll go to Rob and Karen to get a viewpoint there too.
Yeah, I think it's very important, because you learn things in conversations and test things in conversations, and if we all know about the importance of diversity of thought, and if one of the issues we have on farms, if you just have one king in the paddock who's just making all the calls all the time, you get okay calls and get quite bad calls sometimes. But if they're constantly being tested by another person behind the farm gate, that just leads to better calls being made on a more regular basis. So just being able to have those conversations is just critical, I reckon.
Thanks, Mark. And
Rob and Karen.
Yeah, it's all gone a bit viral for me. What started off, like Karen was doing the books and involved in the office and doing a little bit of out on hands-on on the farm, and I'd try and get something, might be doing up your yards or something, and be like, what are you doing that for? No, we haven't got, that's not in the budget, we can't do that. So I thought, right, if I can get her out there just doing it a bit more. And so she became more and more hands-on as well. And then all of a sudden it'd be like, she'd be, oh, that fence out there is buggered, you need to start fixing that up. Oh, those yards, there's a couple of, oh, we might as well, knew this and that. And it was like, so I mean, it's been gold that she's out there hands-on as well. And so we do, as Mark alluded to, we do a lot of discussing different things at night and that, and it just, when you're both connected with the farm and out there doing it, it just, makes it so much easier to, and we're just both sounding boards for one another. So you've got the best of both worlds, basically. You're out there on the coalface doing it, but you can also then just, flick ideas and things backwards and forwards with one another, because you've got that kind of engagement with both of you. So yeah,
we both think about things quite differently. I mean, I have a vet nursing background, so for me animal health is key, and it's a driver of most things. So I tend to be, it's a big focus of mine. I also do a lot of more of the HR sort of side of things. So I think we've sort of both got our areas that we both enjoy, and we do see things a little bit differently, which I think is really good when we're coming to making decisions and things. We can look at both sides and discuss things. So I think, yeah, I'd say, I mean, I used to sort of question how much value I added to the business, but I don't think I would do that anymore. I used to think I just sort of did the accounts and things because I had another job, but I think through doing courses as well, I have a lot higher opinion of what I actually bring to the business. And it's not, I'm not necessarily out there fixing fences and things, but I could certainly add a monetary value on what I do. As with a lot of women's jobs, it's often not always seen, it's not always something you can quantify, but yeah, we're a good team.
Very excellent. And yes, it's getting rid of that word just. I'm just the, you know, the farmer's wife, or I'm just the this, because most of us on farms do a lot more than the just bit. So yeah, very good. There's a question around social license that we'll have a quick discussion about. So Warwick's put up, many farmers are feeling the pressure from having to justify their social license. How best to handle this at the farmer level? So I'll throw over to either group, Mark, or to Rob and Karen, who'd like to throw an opinion on that.
Actually, I think Karen should answer that question, because she sees some fantastic stuff in the interview about that topic.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think we do need a license to farm. We don't own the land. We're keepers of it, and you know, we know full well that one day we'll be leaving this beautiful place to somebody else, whether that's family or not. And I think it's really important that we look after it, and try and do whatever farming practices we do. We're improving what we're doing, and we can repeat it year after year after year without having a detrimental effect. I also think that, you know, around carbon and that kind of thing, I also think that we need to produce what our customers and our markets want. There's no point in us moaning that we can't sell our stock at good prices and things, because we're producing something that's inferior and not what people want to buy. So yeah, I think there's a lot of importance there, and I think we need to look at it as opportunities rather than threats. Yeah, and just sort of identify, you know, where we're going and what it is that we want to do, and no sort of, there's a lot of pushback, I think, with being sort of told that we need to do certain things and look after our water and our erosion and trees, whereas we should be front-footing it and taking it on board and doing it because we want to, because it's good farming practice, it's good for our animals, it's good for our markets, and it's a sustainable way of doing things that we can leave a much better place, hopefully, for our family to come on and farm later on.
Yeah, we started fencing off waterways way back. I mean, it's ongoing, obviously, but and it's very simple for us with our, you know, with our bull units in particular, when you only got one wire hot wires to do things. But yeah, it became pretty obvious to us to keep to front foot it basically, and you know, get all your waterways sorted.
And I don't think, you know, well, I would say it hasn't impacted us financially. I mean, yes, there's a little bit of extra work to do here and there, but I think if you start early enough, you've got a good length of time to implement a lot of these changes. Whereas I think, you know, there's always a lot of scaremongering in the media and that kind of thing, that, you know, you've got to rush out and do it all tomorrow and it's going to cost, you know, such a lot of money. But I think, you know, if it's always in the back of your mind when you're farming, when you're out there and you're looking at things, you can tick away at it. And there's a lot of help out there with funding. You just got to be a bit proactive and look at what's available. But also just having a good farm management plan and environmental plan that you can just slowly work away at, really.
Excellent. I've been reading a book by Simon Sinek called The Infinite Game, and it's really made me think about farming is an infinite game, and that's, you know, if we approach it in that way, it's it does change our mindset. Whereas a lot of businesses are finite and they finish, but we don't. It's, as you say, it's generational, what goes on. Now we have a question about infrastructure. So high performing farmers invest in quality infrastructure, and this can be a costly task and difficult, especially for younger farmers starting out. Was this a big costly investment or for smaller investments? So Mark, do you want to pass any comments about investing in infrastructure?
Okay, I'll say a few things. Farming is a long-term game, and so the farmers that I talked to, and you heard sort of Rob and Karen allude to this. They've started a long time ago, and you just do a little bit year after year. So it's not something you just rip in and just do straight away. But it's one of the things that leads to high-performing farmers, high performance on farms, and it's just critical to get those things in place. So if you want to borrow and do something, I've heard many farmers saying that's where they would start. Just it's getting your paddocks done, it's getting your water systems done. It's not that sexy, but it's just really good basic stuff that you will get a return from.
Yeah. Okay, good. And I also noticed there was a comment about the value of mentors. So Rob and Karen, would you like to pass any comments about the importance of mentors for you in your business journey?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, we've got lots of them. Just great sounding boards, and we're rightly or wrongly, we've tried to align ourselves with farmers, well, one, that are like-minded, and two, that are kind of doing similar things to what we're doing, and they've been great, and we've got, and real good friends out of it and stuff, so and a lot of them, we've had to go, because there's not a lot of bull farming people around where we are, so we've had to just go further afield, and we've gone all over the countryside and met with similar operations and people, and they've made a huge impact. They've probably been the biggest help and impact on our farming business.
And we can certainly sort of see that, when we've put ourselves out and done things, we've met people, and we were talking about it the other night, how, if we hadn't done that, we wouldn't have met these people, or I did an Agri-Women's Development Trust, Understand Your Farming Business down in, but I went to Dannyburg to do it, and I met a whole heap of new people, one of which was a lovely lady that said, when you come back, come and stay. So I went and stayed, and I met her husband, who was just lovely. And then I said to Rob one night, we must go down and see them, because you just get on so well with them. And so we formed a bit of a relationship with him. And then when we bought the other block, we, together with our bank manager, we got a group of people together and said, right, we've got a blank canvas, come up here, have a look at the farm, tell us what you think we should be doing with it. So we all sat round, and we came round both farms, and they, between us, we all sat down and worked out this plan, and it's been amazing.
Totally different what we would have come up with if we hadn't got these other people involved.
Totally turned everything on its head.
Yep.
But one of the guys has, because it's similar to what he does, has remained a really good friend and mentor to us. Even, in fact, we were away with them the other week. We went to Wairarapa. But it's one thing that you do notice, with a lot of top performing people, they're so generous with their time and their knowledge, very, very approachable, because they're doing well, I guess, that they're happy to share with you what they're doing, which is probably such a unique thing in business, isn't it, really?
I come from a cropping kind of background in it originally, and it was just amazing going from that, which is all a secret squirrel, don't devour any information, and you're going to come in and pay $100 less for another lease block down the road, so there's no information shared. And to sheep and beef farming, where you help each other the whole time. It's probably the most unique and neat thing about sheep and beef farming, basically, and dairy, yeah.
Great observation, and fantastic use of mentors and groups of people to move forward with your farming business. I really congratulate you on doing that and stretching yourself outside your comfort zone to engage all those people. What a great story to hear. Now, I think, Dusty, I've run out of time, haven't I? Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So thanks, guys, for sharing those insights and answering the questions. The questions that haven't been answered, we will endeavour to answer in Slack, and so can continue the conversation on. So I will hand over to I'm not sure, Denise or Lab, who am I handing over
Yep,
to?
over to me. Thanks, Jeanette. We want to, it's so good, such great stuff coming out from Mark and Rob and Karen, really good thoughts. But so we wanted to send you back into breakout rooms to a second time. So there'll be different mix of people. So you'll need to introduce yourself again and again, appoint a person as a scribe. And if one of you as a facilitator can just make sure everyone gets the chance to share. So Dusty, if you could move on a couple of slides, I think, or one slide maybe. Yep, that's the one, applying the learning. So what we really want you to do is just take a moment to think and then go around the room and share around this whole question of how can we encourage measuring and recording farm performance and using this information for decision making. You know, based on what you've heard from Mark and Rob and Karen, like what's some ideas that you can share amongst yourselves. So we're going to give you 10 minutes in small groups to do that, and so yeah, take a moment though to introduce yourself to start with, so that you know who's in the room, and then have a think and how can we get this message out. So thanks, Dusty, and Dusty will put that into Slack as well, so you'll have it, and if you're the scribe can also stick that into Slack. So okay, welcome back everyone. I think that's everyone. So Lab, I think it's over to you for the individual reflection.
Yes, hi again everybody. Some wonderful ideas coming out there in the Slack, and it's really great to see at last that people are actually using that, because it's a really valuable medium. So as we always do, we usually provide a time for some personal reflection, just a brief personal reflection, and we've been giving you a variety of techniques. So today we'd like to show you a new one, which is quite simple, but the idea is that you may find some of these useful in your own facilitation efforts. And this is really quite a simple one. So what I'd like you to do is just take 5 and write down 2 or possibly 3 things that resonated with you, things that actually impacted you in a way that you thought, oh, I could use that, or I like that. And then once you've done that, decide which one will have the most impact, and then write down what you're going to do about it. So an action, come up with an action at the end of it. We'll give you about another 4 minutes to do that just by yourselves. You can mute your video if you like, and then just turn on again when you come back in. But just remember to stay at least audio muted, because when you start asking questions from other people, we can all hear what you're talking about. So just remember to do that.
All right, we're going to do the last bit of this session. We want to make the most of the last bit of time that we've got. So we wanted to get a last comment from Rob and Karen and Mark, and Lab had a couple of questions that he picked up via the Slack channel, so I'll hand back to you, Lab. There's
a couple of questions that I think kind of suggest that some of the barriers for farmers to want to start getting involved in this. The first one was, and perhaps I'll ask them both and then get Mark and Rob and Karen to answer separately, but I thought the first one probably is for Mark and the second one for Rob and Karen. And the first one was, what's the definition of high performance? You know, it may be that this could be off-putting. And then the second one for Rob and Karen is how transferable are the skills? And I interpreted that as how easy is it to learn some of that stuff like pasture management and you know, assessing stock condition. So just a quick comment from each of you on those would be rather good.
Okay, so I'll start with the high performance farming. How do you define it? Well, back in 2014, when we did the research, we had quite a technical definition where we looked at EFS and ROA, and so we went through everyone's books and found out what they were doing. And so I won't go into those details, but they had to be obviously quite high in those figures. But I don't think for the rest of the population, they don't need to be high performing farmers. What they can learn from these farmers is maybe just 1 or 2 things that suits their style of farming. And I've been banging on about style of farming all the time, because that's really, really important. So maybe from what Karen and Rob were saying, maybe just start to measure one thing. Maybe you get a mentor. Maybe you surround yourself with a bit more of a farm team, and just get one of those things into your business, and that will make a difference. But we don't all want to be All Blacks, but you can definitely be a good club player, which is still a very satisfying life.
Yeah. Yeah, totally agree, Mark. And also, just I like to. I think Mark mentioned it earlier. Actually, just attention to detail. Like just be prepared to. We're just. Yeah, I mean, we love farming, but like it'll be a 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock on a Friday night. You come home and like I say, so we'll look out there and say, hey, that bloody mob of bulls. They were meant to be shifted yesterday, but they need shifting now. So Karen or myself, one of us will go and shift them. It's just attention to detail and putting systems in place. We're just, I'll carry my little phone around me, and anything that needs, fixing or whatever, I'll put it into my phone so it's all there. And just keeping the efficiencies up, and
Yes, I'll just say one comment on that, if that's all right. So you said something in the interview, Rob, that you've rightly or wrongly shifted bulls every weekend for the last 12 to 15 years, and that is part of being a top farmer. It is hard work and it is execution day after day after day, and not everyone likes that. Not everyone wants to live like that. So that's why not everyone will be high performing farmers or even need to be.
But I actually think it comes back to, why are you doing it? Why are you doing the job that you're doing? And I think, how many people actually sit down and think, right, what's my goal? What am I wanting to achieve? And I think for us, it's about looking at it as a personal level. What's Rob's goal? What's my goal? Where do we want to be in 10 years? And actually sitting down and thinking, right, well, this is where we want to be. We just want to be, good farmers or ticking along, being able to pay our debt off. That would be great. And so then you set your goals around that and your financials around that and where you want to be. And I think then you can start to trickle everything down to, well, if this is where I want to be and this is what I want to do, how do I achieve that? And I think that's when you start to come back to what's the monitoring and the things that I need to do to try and achieve that. So then, that might not be some of the things that we're doing because of what we want to achieve for our goal, which was, making as much money as we could so we could buy another farm. Well, they might not want another farm, that's fine. They might be really happy with what they've got, but they might like to clear a bit of debt because, succession planning, or they might want to move off farm and buy a little block somewhere and put a manager on. So I think, all farmers at whatever age and stage of their life, I think should have a goal, a personal goal, and also a farm goal of where they want to be. And then I think from there, they can make their own decisions around what monitoring and how they need to, or what they need to use to help them achieve that goal.
It was a bit long-winded, but
sorry.
Yeah.
No, that's wonderful. It's great stuff. It's been an awesome session hearing from you all. Mark, any last comment, anything that you wanted to add before we close?
Just one thing on what Karen was saying, what Rob and Karen was saying, is that it's all about what you enjoy doing, really. Like I met a farmer once, and his goal was to have a debt-free farm and pay for both of his kids to have a free university education. He achieved that, and he was a happy man. And then now he wants to go fishing and play golf.
Good on.
Now that's a style of farming that you can have in this country, and that's why it's so appealing. And so we need to give farmers the space to do that, and not all put them that we need to be like Rob and Karen, because they just don't want to.
No.
That's awesome. Yeah, cool stuff. Rob and Karen, any last comments that you've got for us?
At the end of the day, we're doing something that we love and enjoy, and we're probably, like Mark was saying, guilty of the other way. We need to just factor in now going forward to have, even if it's every fourth weekend or third weekend off, and we've in a way we've been, we've put the toil in, so now it's time to, and we'll never really step back out of it, but it's time to start to have the odd weekend off basically, and you do that through having staff keep doing the job and sharing the workload. So yeah.
I mean, we are extremely passionate about what we do, and being the best that we can be is a big driver for us. We're always scrutinising what we're doing, why we've done it, and what we can do better, and we will always do that because that's the people that we are and what we want to do. But we also do realise that, you know, different farmers want different things out of it, and I think that's really important. There's no point in doing stuff that doesn't make you happy or you don't enjoy. Some farmers prefer to look over the fence and see that really fat stock in the paddock and looking amazing and grass up to their knees, and that's fine, you know. It's yeah, I think there's room for us all, but yeah, you just got to try and do the best that you can do, really.
So cool. It's been such a great session. I don't know about everyone else, but I've really been inspired by the passion that you three bring to farming, to research on farming, Mark, and it's really, really good and very inspiring, and some great tips there for all of us working with farmers, but other rural professionals and just in our day-to-day work as well. So thank you, Mark. Thank you, Rob and Karen. It's been great to have you on the line. We've really appreciated it. Two quick things to finish. We've got a quick poll. Just want to get a gauge on how useful the session has been. So I've just got a quick poll up. It is anonymous. We don't share the result. Share who responded to what. So if you can just jump in and do that, and most of you, a couple more seconds, and nearly there, and I'm going to close it off and share the results, and it looks like it's been very useful and extremely useful. So thank you so much again, Rob and Karen and Mark. It's really cool. We really appreciate that. And I can't believe it, we're up to our final session next week. So Dusty, if you want to throw up the last slide, it's just advertising that we've got a second session on Action Network. Next week, we're digging into the approach and how we can apply that going forward. So it'll be here online, 10:30 next Monday, the 10th of August. So we look forward to seeing you there. Register, please, if you haven't, and jump back into Slack as well if you're keen to keep the conversation going. As Jeanette mentioned, we will be following up on some of those questions, and we'll try and make sure that we answer a few of those by talking to Rob and Karen and Mark offline. But thank you so much for joining us, and that draws our session to an end. So thank you, team. Good work.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks very much. Thanks, Denise.
Cool.
Okay. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.